Well, a growing list of congressional lawmakers are vowing to leave no stone unturned in finding out the extent and breadth of Russian influence to elect Donald Trump as president. This after the FBI is now supporting the CIA's conclusion that Moscow did interfere with our republic, the alleged goal, harming Hillary Clinton and supporting Mr. Trump's cause. Despite pushback from the president-elect and his transition team, Congress seems to be moving toward hearings on all this. Senator John McCain says Russian influence was no spin job, as the Trump chief of staff writes previous claims, but a direct effort, he says, to damage our democracy.
We need a select committee. We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to find out exactly what was done and what the implications of the attacks were, especially if they had an effect on our election. There's no doubt they were interfering, and no doubt it was a cyber attacks. The question now is how much and what damage and what should the United States of America do?
Now, Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell joins us. He's a member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and the ranking member of the CIA Subcommittee and has some plans, and he joins us now from Oakland. Congressman, first of all, you've introduced legislation. It's called the Protect Our Democracy Act, and it will establish an independent commission like the 9/11 Commission to investigate all this. Tell us about it.
Thank you, Eric, for having me on. And it's called Protect Our Democracy because our democracy this election season was attacked, and the evidence overwhelmingly suggests it was by Russia. But what I believe the best way to get to the bottom of who exactly was responsible, why we were so vulnerable, and how we can protect our democracy from being attacked again is to have a bipartisan, independent commission outside of Congress to tell the American people once and for all what happened.
Well, you just heard John McCain call for a select committee. I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean, Mitch McConnell has been, against that. So there's pushback at the House, top Senate leadership. So why do you think a commission should be formed, and who would make up that commission? What would it be composed of?
Well, Eric, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and Congress has a role to play here. But when the president-elect is disavowing what 17 intelligence agencies have said that Russia is responsible, and instead he's choosing to side with the murderous Russian dictator, well, then I think that's all the more reason to have an independent commission of outside experts in foreign policy, national security, and election systems to sign off and tell the American people in a credible way what happened.
What will it take to establish this commission after you pass the legislation?
It'll take Congress, the House and the Senate, to pass it, and the President to sign off on it. And I think the sooner the better, because we cannot allow this to be normalized and for us to just accept that we're going to allow outside actors to mess with our elections. These are our fights, and they should be spirited, and, candidates should be battle-tested. But I don't think either Republicans or Democrats ever want another country, whether it's Russia or who knows who it could be in the future, to come into our elections.
Well, Congress is, as you know, is in recess. I mean, so what happens? You can't get this through, under President Obama. What if it lands on President Trump's desk and he doesn't sign it?
Sure we can, Eric. We're back January 3rd, and President Obama will have 17 more days in office. But if that's not the case, then I think the American people need to make it clear to President Trump. Even those who voted for President Trump have an interest in making sure that he signs on to this. So there's going to be ample opportunity. And I think this is bigger than Republicans or Democrats, because Democrats may have been attacked this time, but if history has its way, it could be a different party next time. And the constant should be that we all, Republicans and Democrats, care about protecting our democracy.
Boy, that means the clock is ticking. Would you want this commission also to investigate any ties between the Trump campaign, as has been alleged, and Moscow and the Russians? Kellyanne Conway today said that there was no contact in terms of the election, that this is dangerous, and it wasn't true. But would that be off the table?
I think everything should be on the table as far as what Russia's involvement was. And the only way to do that is to have an outside independent commission look at it. Right now, the president-elect is already denying, without even telling the American people whether he's seen the evidence, that Russia was even involved. And so the first question is, once and for all, who was responsible? Then the next question is, did they have a preferred candidate? And then if the evidence leads us any further, then I'd want the commission to have the ability to go there. Well,
Reince Priebus today seemed to be that they're backtracking a bit, saying that if the FBI and intelligence has a report, put it out, that the president-elect, would reconsider. But based on what we know now, based on everything that we've seen and the allegations, how troubled are you about this? What does this mean to our sovereignty, to our republic, to our democratic tenets, to the values as Americans for what we stand for, no matter who you support? if indeed Russia did intervene in an American election to try and sway the outcome?
I've seen the evidence, Eric. It's powerful, it's overwhelming, and President-elect Trump has even greater access than I do. President Obama said he's giving President Trump access to the daily briefing, yet President-elect Trump has refused to take that briefing every day. So until he comes forward and says that he has also seen the evidence, I think, he's quite ignorant and he's uninformed as to how we were attacked. And so we should all be concerned, because this is not going to stop. Russia continues to meddle internationally. They just recently have interfered in Germany's election, and they are going to look at us as being weak if we don't stand up and say, never again will we tolerate this.
Can you say what that evidence is? Can you be specific?
No, and that's why I think an independent commission should work with our intelligence agencies to say, what can we release that does not, give up our sources and methods, but so that the American people, once and for all, know who was responsible, why we were vulnerable, and again, why Republicans and Democrats would never want us to ever let this happen again.
Well, some of this may have to be declassified, and it will continue as something that certainly is very troubling. Congressman Swalwell from California, we thank you for joining us, and have a happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
You too. Merry Christmas.
See what happens with your bill. You got 17 days, and you put it up there on the president's desk. Whether it's Mr. Obama or Mr. Trump, we'll see what happens. Thank you for joining us.